Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Tonight is the February 26, 2020 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. I want to welcome everybody who's here and, of course, everybody that is watching us remotely, whether on our cable channel, 1303, Spectrum cable, or live streaming us at home. We welcome your participation. We welcome your interest in local government. I'm Bill Maley, the Brighton Town Supervisor. I'd like to start our meeting by inviting those of you that are able to stand to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Chris, if you'd lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chris. For everybody that's here in the room tonight, I want to let you know that on the back table we have tonight's agenda as well as a folder with all of the supporting material for all the actions we will be considering tonight. For those of you that are watching us remotely, you can collect all the same material on the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org, and we welcome you to participate. And in fact, we'll be going to the open forum portion of the meeting shortly. When we get to the open forum, we invite you to participate by calling in. Somewhere in here, I'm not seeing the call-in number. Oh yeah, there we go. 303-3060. 303-3060 is our call-in number, and I would note that to make sure we are as inclusive as we can be, we also are interpreting tonight, and every night we have a town board meeting. Our ASL sign language interpreters tonight, Melissa Lanty and Dale Moore. Thank you both. If you are watching us on Spectrum and you experience any difficulties with the audio or the video, you can call Spectrum 756-5000. That's 756-5000 should you have any issues with the Spectrum live broadcast tonight. If you hear the town hall emergency alarm system activate, please leave the building as soon as possible. You can do that either through the door to my right, marked exit, turn right, go down the stairs, or take the elevator down to the main floor, go out the rear door of Town Hall and away from the building. Or you can leave through the double doors behind me, go through the lobby, out the front door of Town Hall, down the stairs, and again, away from the building. But don't go yet, because we've got some, I think something that's very special here this evening. We do have a proclamation. As I think you all know, February each year is African American History Month. And we're going to start tonight's meeting by presenting the town's annual African American History proclamation, recognizing that this year the theme of African American History Month is African Americans and the Vote. And when I learned of the theme, the first person I thought of, and I am so pleased that he is here with us this evening, is Peter Tolliver. And I would, Peter, if you would like to come up, if Yvonne, your wife, would like to come up, I welcome either or both of you to join me. Before I read this proclamation, Peter and Yvonne's son, David, who lives down in New York City, and I hope is watching us on our YouTube live stream right now. But David, if you are, welcome. David sent me an email with a little bit of biographical information about Peter. Peter Tolliver was born in Nashville, Tennessee. He's lived in the Rochester area with his lovely wife, Yvonne, since 1956. And he's lived in Brighton, they have lived in Brighton, since September 1960. For 57 years, Peter and Yvonne Tolliver called 42 Verena Drive their home. Moving into Brighton in 1960 was not without some controversy and difficulty. But with great support from family and friends, the Tollivers persevered and became a part of the very fabric of Brighton. All three of their children, Peter Jr., David, and Carol, were products of the Brighton school system and went on to college and successful careers. Peter Sr., a physicist by training, worked at a number of Rochester's engineering and technical companies, including a 12-plus year stint with Xerox. Yvonne, having attended the Eastman School of Music, has been a music teacher, accompanist, church choir leader, and also worked in admissions at the University of Rochester for 21 years. Peter has used his technical background for both personal and professional gain. He holds, I love this part, he holds over 11 patents, with some still pending, that range from complex components in copiers to a fish hook and everything in between. The Tolliver basement was filled with prototypes of a range of products. When the Tollivers finally moved from the family home in November 2017, and Peter gave up his basement and workbench, the moving men had their hands full sifting through 57 years of Peter's products, ideas, and concepts. Peter has been a lifelong advocate for civil rights and equality. Growing up in the South in the 30s taught him at an early age how difficult and cruel racism can be. He was determined to get out of the South and raise his family in a safe environment and comfortable community, free of overt racism and bias. Not intending to do anything but raise a family in a community with great schools, the Tollivers became what most believe were the first African-American family in Brighton to purchase a home. The pending purchase on Verena Drive made the Times-Union newspaper and local television stations at the time. It was 1960 in a different era, a difficult era. 4 years before the Civil Rights Act of 1964 would become the law of the land. Not the easiest time for a young African-American scientist and his family to settle into Brighton or any non-diverse suburban community. But all in all, Brighton proved to be the perfect setting for the Tolliver family. At 92, Peter and Yvonne, as David says, much younger, with a little smiley face, live on their own, totally independent in their new home on East Avenue, still in Brighton, of course. Surrounded by friends and family, the Tollivers are enjoying all that Rochester and Brighton has to offer. And to further show the Tollivers' commitment to Rochester, Peter and Yvonne's youngest grandson is now a freshman at the U of R, after having attended high school in Shanghai, where Carol and her husband lived. A husband, a father, a scientist, an intellectual, an avid outdoorsman, a civil rights activist, and an unintended pioneer. Peter and the Tolliver family here in the community of Brighton have been the embodiment of the American dream. Now, I moved to Brighton 40 years ago, and I can very proudly say, Peter, that you are the first person I ever voted for Brighton Town Supervisor in 1981, the first of 2 times that you ran for Brighton Town Supervisor. And that's really I talked about the theme of this year, African Americans and the Vote. Peter and Yvonne were the first African Americans to buy a home in Brighton that we know of. But Peter was also the first African American candidate, I believe for elective office, certainly for supervisor, in the town of Brighton. So you were a trailblazer then in so many ways. So this proclamation, African American History Month, I want to read now. Whereas, since its establishment in 1976, African American History Month has been increasingly influential in educating our citizenry about the significant contributions African Americans have made to the social, scientific, and cultural growth of the United States. And whereas 2020 is a landmark year for voting rights, as we celebrate the sesquicentennial of the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave African American men the right to vote, and the centennial of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. Whereas fittingly, the 2020 theme for African American History Month is African Americans and the Vote, marking a momentous period in our nation's history as the disenfranchised pursued democratization of our republic. Whereas learning about African Americans in U.S. history gives us insight into some of the most powerful movements for human rights, and while the vote is now a right of every U.S. citizen, the ability to vote is being jeopardized through challenges to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, underscoring further the responsibility of every adult to cast their vote in every election. Whereas tonight, we also recognize longtime Brighton resident, veteran, inventor, and scientist, Peter M. Tolliver, who, with his wife Yvonne, moved to Brighton in 1960 as perhaps the first African American family to purchase a home here. And whereas in 1981 and 1983, Peter M. Tolliver ran for Brighton supervisor, he was the first African American to do so in Brighton. And while he did not win the office, he laid the groundwork for other African Americans to run for office and win in Brighton and in other towns. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and all of the members of our town board, do hereby recognize February 2020 as African American History Month in the town of Brighton. And we collectively thank Peter M. Tolliver for running for local office, always questioning the status quo and being a champion for civil rights. And this proclamation is signed by the five of us this 26th day of February, 2020. Peter, thank you.
Thank you.
For so much. I do want to let you know, Peter, that Sheila Gaddis, who was the first African American actually elected to the town board, sent her regrets. She could not be here tonight, but she's going to be watching later. Well, she's still very active in the legal community and in the community. And of course, Robin Wilt, the second African American to be elected here in the town of Brighton. But we have seen African Americans elected in Irondequoit, in Henrietta as well. And you are the shoulders that all of them stood on, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, fellow Brightonian. I appreciate this recognition, and we are very, very happy to see that things have continued to progress, and that America is a great country, and New York is a great state in which to live. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Peter.
60, wow. What happens here? It's brave.
Tonight, I'm also presenting the 2020 State of the Town address, and I thank you all for joining me to discuss the state of the town. This is my 9th State of the Town address, and in looking forward to the future of our community of Brighton, I can wholeheartedly affirm that the state of the town of Brighton is strong. Strong in our people and neighborhoods, strong in our fiscal position, and strong in our policy initiatives. While our successes have earned us recognition as the best place to live in New York, we must continue to strive for more. Strive to be a model for other communities across the state and across the nation. But most importantly, strive to be a community where we open our arms and our hearts to strangers. A community where sustainability, education, and inclusion are not merely words, they're core values that we live by and that we work to enhance. This is a challenging time, and in some ways the challenges we face today are very different than those we have faced in the past. But through it all, we must and we will strive always to keep Brighton a community where we celebrate our neighborhoods and small businesses, and a community where our quality of life is second to none. This is our community, this is our town, this is Brighton. I want to acknowledge first my elected town colleagues who are with me at the table: Christine Corrado, Chris Werner, Jason DePonzio, Robin Wilt. You see them on Wednesday nights, twice a month, but that's really the tip of the iceberg of the work they do, whether chairing or serving on town committees, working as liaisons to other committees, reaching out, engaging with members of the community. This is truly a legislative body that works and is responsive to the people, as local government should be. And I appreciate all of you for doing that. Next to the right of Robin, of course, Dan Amon, town clerk and receiver of taxes. Now, Dan sometimes seems to be everywhere, particularly now that he holds office hours at various senior communities in Brighton and at the Brighton Recreation Department's senior program every month, ensuring that town resources and information are available to all. But when tax collection season rolls around, Dan and his team are in place down in the clerk's office doing remarkable work, not only collecting those taxes, but also day to day providing a broad range of services, from dog licenses to handicap parking to marriage licenses and passports, all part of an ordinary day's work in the town clerk's office. If there is such a thing as an ordinary day's work in the town clerk's office. Thank you, Dan. We can't do it alone, so I'm especially grateful for my colleagues in government who are with us tonight, and for those who could not be here. I'm very pleased that 3 of our 4 county legislators who serve the town of Brighton are with us tonight. Linda Hassman and Justin Wilcox are in the front row. Josh Baroth behind them in the second row. Thank you both. Thank you all for being here. We are conflicting with some other events tonight. There's a lot going on, particularly at the school district. The All District Strings concert is tonight. And I really regret that I couldn't be there because I had such a great time with the strings from the middle school at their last concert, narrating a patriotic composition about Abraham Lincoln preparing and giving the Gettysburg Address. So for our members of the school committee, I'm sorry we're conflicting tonight, but we appreciate everything that you do. We have our 2 town judges here this evening, Judge John Falk and Judge Karen Morris. Thank you so much. Appreciate your being here. And we also have representatives from Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, Dennis Mites, Mike Pollock. I know Jennifer Wolfley is also a Brighton BVA volunteer. Thank you for being here. Right. Thank you. Rick Garrett is here from the Brighton Fire Department. Thank you, and I'll have more to say about both of those agencies in a little bit. We talked about our accomplishments in Brighton during 2019, but those accomplishments really, yes, I'm appreciative to everybody up here, but they are really a function of the great people here in Town Hall and in our various facilities, and particularly the leadership and hard work of our town senior staff. During 2019, David Cathaldi became Chief of Police after over 20 years of service with the Brighton Police Department and service to our country in the Air Force before that. Also during 2019, we welcomed Lisa Pavlovich as our court clerk, and along with Judges Morris and Falk, whom I already introduced, together they have worked tirelessly to continue to provide fair justice for all in what is widely viewed as the best town court in the area. Commissioner of Public Works, Highway Superintendent, Sewer Commissioner, Mike Guyon, probably wears the most hats of anyone on our senior staff, with responsibility for, among other things, all of our sustainability planning and execution, sidewalk and trail construction, leaf pickup, snow and ice removal. Gonna be working again, Mike. Land use, property maintenance, and so much more. When I talk about the many hats Mike wears, maybe I'm referring to the seasons, because in the fall and in the winter when it's cold, that's when your crews are the busiest. And it seems as though the harshest weather really follows their hardest work. So I can't thank you, and I can't thank our sewer department, our highway department workers who are out there in the cold when we need them most for their work and for your work. Thank you, Mike. Jennifer Reese-Taggart is our executive director at the Brighton Memorial Library. And of course, our library serves thousands of people every year with so much more than a traditional library of books. The wide variety of programs, over 1,000 different programs during 2019, and all the materials on all the different media are just some of the reasons that the Brighton Memorial Library has been recognized as the best library in the area. And I'll put in a plug for the Friends of the Brighton Memorial Library used book sale, which starts tomorrow if you're a member. And if you're not a member of the Friends yet, you can join by going down there and get the best selection of those books. If you don't do that, the sale starts on Friday and runs through Monday. Our recreation director, Becky Cotter, manages affordable, high-quality recreation and other activities that serve families, toddlers, seniors, and everyone in between. In particular, she does this great work largely in a facility that was built as a grammar school over 50 years ago. It is important that we have a community center to enhance the quality of life for all people in Brighton, people of all ages, and we will begin the process of planning such a center during the coming year. Matt Beeman, our park superintendent, has somehow managed to maintain an ever-expanding parks and trail system, and by the way, we're not done yet, with a small but dedicated group of workers who today keep over 560 acres of parks and nearly 15 miles of trails safe and enjoyable. Now, the public doesn't always get to work with our finance director, Paula Parker, but we do, and we know that Paula and her team are responsible for working to develop strong, fiscally responsible budgets, even in the face of scarce resources and a tax cap that often has the unintended consequence of denying local governments the resources needed to enhance community quality of life investments. But through it all, our finance department, the town of Brighton, continues to maintain balanced budgets, comply with the tax cap, and earn high ratings from Moody's and the State Comptroller for our fiscal stability and our strength. Also largely invisible to the public, but vital nonetheless, are our IT Director, Jeremy Lutz, and our HR Director, Tricia Van Putty. In an era where cybersecurity is a regular part of the evening news, Jeremy's work is ever more important to ensure that our IT infrastructure supports our work as efficiently as possible, but also ensures that our data and yours are protected from criminal hackers. Tricia is responsible for navigating the arcane rules of a civil service system that was designed to prevent nepotism and political patronage, but today all too often makes it difficult for municipalities like Brighton that seek to diversify our workforce to do so within the rules of civil service. But thank you to you both for your behind-the-scenes excellence. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of visibility is our town assessor, Sue Wentworth. Sue came to us originally as our IT director, but she also had a background in real estate appraisal. And today she serves as our town assessor, where she has melded these two disciplines and leads an office that works daily with people, residents who have questions about the complicated world of property taxes and assessments. And she does so in a way that is so helpful and welcoming to everyone that walks in the door, particularly our seniors. She is visible indeed. As a former attorney to the town myself for over 18 years, I know how important that job is, both serving as a legal advisor, but also more broadly as a government advisor, particularly in a town like Brighton, where we work proactively and are often the first in the area or even in the state to take action to address important issues. In appointing Ken Gordon as attorney to the town after I became supervisor, his own experience as a former town board member was a valuable consideration, and I appreciate the expertise and the experience that you bring to the job. Thanks, Ken. Since 2012, the town of Brighton has received over $5 million in new grants. Last year, we completed the Envision Brighton 2028 Comprehensive Plan Update. The Envision Brighton Plan Update has a base in sustainability. It was funded through a sustainability program. And this year, we've relied on the recommendations set forth in the plan to win additional grants, to build sidewalks that will ensure that students arrive at school safely, to design a new trail system in West Brighton, the Multiversity Trail, that when completed will connect our region's mini research triangle, the U of R, RIT, and MCC, all of which are either located or have activities here in the town. That trail system, the Multiversity Trail, will also support economic development and residential quality of life in West Brighton. And finally, we've used and relied on that plan to earn a grant to complete our Climate Action Plan, an important roadmap and scorecard for Brighton's sustainability efforts. Each of these grants has their basis in the Envision Brighton 2028 plan, and each of these grants will help advance the cause of sustainability in Brighton. Envision Brighton 2028 is our core land use planning document, and we work with it daily to develop sustainable ideas for Brighton's future. This past fall, Brighton and the City of Rochester jointly opened the Highland Crossing Trail. The Highland Crossing Trail links the Erie Canal Trail in Brighton with the Genesee Riverway Trail in Rochester, and it too was funded by a grant, a federal grant. It runs generally from the Brighton Town Park on Westfall Road, past SUNY Empire State College, the Islamic Center, other employers, Sawgrass Drive, up through Highland Park and the Highland Park neighborhood in the city, to a junction with the Genesee River Trail near the north end of the U of R River campus. This route is ideal both for recreational use and for commuting by bicycle or pedestrian. That gives us approximately 15 miles of trails in Brighton that help connect our community with nature and with our neighbors, as well as providing an important, safe, and sustainable transportation network. Our public safety agencies work 24/7 for our safety and welfare. During 2019, we congratulated outgoing Chief Mark Henderson on his retirement from the Brighton Police Department, knowing that he would continue to be a part of the broad effort to keep our community safe in his new role as Director of Community Security for the Jewish Federation. And we've seen again, just in the last week, how important that is for our community, as JCCs and other communities were targeted again by anonymous threats, cowardly threats. But in saying goodbye to Chief Henderson, we welcome Chief David Cathaldi, as I mentioned, a 20-year veteran. In line with our town-wide sustainability engagement, the police department now has 3 hybrid police vehicles and plans to purchase additional hybrid vehicles in 2020. The number of traffic tickets issued by the department rose significantly in 2019, as did DWI arrests. Traffic safety will continue to be a priority with the department because we know it's a priority for all of you in the community. On a related note, we purchased 2 sets of temporary speed humps last year and tested them briefly before the early snow set in the fall. Tests with these temporary humps will be a part of the review process for any new speed humps to be installed for traffic calming purposes. While speed humps can, in some cases, help calm traffic, they do come with some potential disadvantages as well. We'll review any new requests for speed humps to ensure that they don't simply divert traffic to other streets and that they don't cause excessive delays in service for emergency service vehicles. I'm particularly appreciative for the many times that our Brighton Police Department works on an interagency basis with the sheriff, the state police, and/or the district attorney to conduct serious investigations. In 2019, we witnessed at least 2 very high-profile cases of that nature: the tragic motor vehicle accident on Edgewood Avenue and the reopening of the murder from over 35 years ago of Kathleen Krausnick. The hard work, compassion, and professionalism of the Brighton Police Department was evident in both of these cases. Thank you, Chief, and thank you to the entire team. There is no finer police department anywhere in New York State. As I noted last year in my State of the Town address, the Brighton Fire Department conducted a public review of ongoing staffing at Station 3 on Blossom Road. Thanks to community involvement and the willingness of the fire department to engage in this important dialogue, a decision was made to maintain full staffing at Station 3 and to conduct a test of increased staffing at the station beginning later this year. Maintaining and enhancing the quality of service in East Brighton and in Brighton as a whole is an important part of our public safety framework, and I greatly appreciate the shared commitment of the Brighton Fire Department to that goal. Thank you, Rick. Brighton Volunteer Ambulance continues to see increasing calls for their services, but thanks in part to their expanded facility, BVA also continues to increase the percentage of calls that they are able to respond to directly, rather than relying on mutual aid from other agencies. This helps ensure faster responses and reduce costs to town residents for the high-quality EMS and other services. And believe me, the Brighton Volunteer Ambulance provides a wide range of services, from training to their equipment lending capabilities. You do it all. Thank you. Thank you, BVA. Now, if you're like me, you're unhappy to see the empty lot at the interchange of 590 and Monroe Avenue. Like me, you're probably also concerned with generating adequate funding for the Brighton School District, which receives barely 50% of the state foundation aid to which they're entitled by formula. And if you're like me, You were impressed at our last town board meeting 2 weeks ago when we listened to a very articulate student who wanted to be able to walk safely to the Harley School and submitted a petition with over 100 signatures in support of that goal. There's a connection between each one of these concerns, and that is the continued frivolous litigation that is blocking development of the vacant land at the interchange of Monroe Avenue and 590, consisting approximately 10 acres, primarily zoned for commercial retail use. That land that is today an eyesore is intended to be the site of the proposed Whole Foods supermarket and plaza, and the gateway to a revitalized Monroe Avenue, an important business corridor from Brighton. It'll bring retail opportunities new to Brighton and healthy competition that brings choices for consumers. When developed, that property will generate as much as $400,000 a year in taxes every year, with approximately $200,000 of those taxes going to the Brighton Central School District. Now, of course, that's not enough to fill the foundation aid gap that the school district faces, but that tax revenue and other new tax revenue that will be generated as we embrace sustainable redevelopment of our Monroe Avenue corridor will help ensure the long-term stability of our schools. Finally, and in addition to that tax revenue, among the over $2 million in amenities that will be provided to the community at no cost to the taxpayers by the developers of that project, because we have used incentive zoning to review the project, is the acquisition of the right-of-way and the construction of the Auburn Trail, which will run from Highland Avenue to the Pittsford Town Line, a distance of about 2 miles, where it will connect with the existing Auburn Trail in Pittsford. When acquired and constructed, the Auburn Trail will allow safe walking and biking to the Harley School and to businesses and neighborhoods at no cost to the taxpayers. Why is that parcel still a vacant eyesore when Brighton would receive such significant tax revenue and community amenities? And traffic studies show that there will be next to no rush hour traffic impact when the project is completed. A series of what I believe are frivolous lawsuits has so far blocked redevelopment of this property. Who's behind these lawsuits? We don't know. But what we do know is that the groups that filed some of those lawsuits are fighting tooth and nail to prevent you from finding out any information about who's actually paying the lawyers to keep that property an eyesore. And they're fighting tooth and nail to keep us from finding out whether they even have the right to bring that lawsuit, those lawsuits in the first place, what's known as standing. The courts have already ruled that our incentive zoning law is legal. The courts have already ruled that the town board complied with the open meetings law in reviewing the application for development. The town board held 5 public hearings at which all perspectives on the project were heard. Those hearings were open to the public, and like tonight's meeting, they were live streamed and broadcast on television. The members of the town board listened to those who expressed concerns about traffic and neighborhood impacts. And we also listened to those who supported economic development and the taxes this project would generate. In response, we directed that the project be reduced in size and that the nearby neighborhoods be protected from traffic by eliminating project access to Clover Street and Allens Creek Road. With those protections in place, the town board voted to proceed with the project for the good of the entire community. Now, Brighton, it's time to move forward. It's time for this frivolous litigation to end. It is time that we work together as a community to bring smart growth, redevelopment, consistent with our comprehensive plan to our commercial corridors. As I said last year, and we all know it, Change is hard, but change is vital. Without change, without a vision for the future, communities lose their vitality and can lose what made them special in the first place. When the plaza is completed, the southern gateway to Brighton will have new vitality and traffic management improvements, traffic safety improvements paid for by the developer. Those improvements will help improve not only automobile vehicular traffic in the neighborhood, but pedestrian safety as well. As I've said before, increased traffic speed should not be the goal for commercial corridors like Monroe Avenue. Tax-based growth, economic development, and safe transportation alternatives to automobile dependency will be more and more important to Brighton's future. And the proposed Whole Foods project will bring all of these benefits to Brighton. The 2020 Town of Brighton budget complied with the New York State tax cap, and revenues from sources other than property taxes remain strong. We'll continue to budget in a prudent and public manner, relying where possible on state and federal grants and using incentive zoning to support quality of life projects, as we have done for years, and as is recommended by the Envision Brighton Comprehensive Plan. The town carries a Moody's AA2 bond rating, and the New York State Comptroller has again reviewed fiscal conditions in every community in New York and found that Brighton has among the lowest levels of fiscal stress in the state. In 2020, we'll begin work on the second phase of the new Winter Farmers Market in Buckland Park. We'll be holding a public information on that project to review the current plans on March 19th at 7 p.m. I believe that's correct, 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. We also expect to implement community choice aggregation in 2020 under a joint memorandum of understanding among the towns of Brighton, Arundecoit, and Pittsford in the village of Pittsford, which will allow all of us to procure 100% renewable source electricity for our residents and small businesses. Under this agreement, Monroe Community Power will procure power from qualifying suppliers of 100% renewable source electricity and cause it to be delivered to residential customers, making Brighton a much more sustainable community. People can work together. Politicians, governments can work together, work across the aisle as we have done here to make our communities better places. Diversity and inclusion are central to who we are as a community. It was especially powerful for me tonight to be able to recognize African American History Month and to honor Peter Tolliver. Peter, I've known you for a long time, and that is a blessing. But it's also an opportunity, and a painful one, to recognize that the Tolliver family's arrival in Brighton some 60 years ago was controversial to many. It's a reminder of the many restrictive covenants that were formally included in property deeds for Brighton homes, preventing Jews and African Americans from buying homes in some Brighton neighborhoods. Now, thanks to court decisions decades ago, it's clear that those restrictive covenants are no longer legal and may not be enforced to keep anyone out of our community. However, I fully understand how painful the mere existence of these covenants is today, particularly for families who own homes that are subjected to those covenants. Although it may be impossible to remove those deeds from the public records and those restrictive covenants, because they're set forth in deeds that must be retained in the chain of legal record for title insurance purposes. I'm working with attorney to the town, Ken Gordon, our county clerk, Jamie Romeo, and property title experts to identify a way to rescind the taint of those restrictive covenants in Brighton as effectively as possible. Also of importance, our IDEA board, The Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board is hard at work developing a diversity and inclusion plan for Brighton. When complete, we'll be the only town in New York State with such a plan. The first opportunities for public input to that process will be on Tuesday, April 16th at 6 p.m. and Saturday, April 25th at 10:30 a.m., both at the Buckland Park Lodge. I want to personally invite all of you here tonight and the entire community to participate in these two important gatherings, where our Idea Board consultant, Gwen Weber-McLeod, and our Idea Board members will work with attendees in small groups to receive input and begin the development of our diversity plan. I want to thank Felicia Garcia Hartstein, Chair of our Idea Board, former Town Council member Sheila Gaddis, who is Special Advisor to the Supervisor for Diversity and Inclusion, and Councilmember Robin Wilt, Town Board Liaison to the Idea Board, for your work with me in advancing the core values of diversity, inclusion, and equity in our community. As we do each spring, I also invite you to participate in Brighton Clean Sweep, 9 a.m., May 9th, starting right here in Town Hall. You'll have an opportunity to go out into the neighborhoods, into the parks, along our trails, and give Brighton its annual spring cleanup. I also want to invite you to our annual, semi-annual, document shredding and electronics recycling event on May 16th from 9 to noon at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue. Finally, I want to strongly encourage everyone in the community to be counted in the 2020 census. I have stressed the recurring theme of scarce resources for our community. One of the ways we can address that issue is by making sure that everybody is counted in the census. Assistant to the Supervisor, Bridget Monroe, is directing our Complete Count project, working with various community leaders and organizations. Within a few weeks, we'll all be receiving letters from the U.S. Census. And I encourage everyone watching tonight first to respond to the census themselves, but then to make sure the communities that you work with, the people that you know and you work with, particularly here in Brighton, know about the census and know how important a complete count is to ensure proper representation for our community and community funding for important projects for Brighton. This year, more than ever, we must all stand up and be counted. Tonight, I've only scratched the surface of my optimism for the future of the town of Brighton. We can't insulate ourselves completely from the challenges we face today in our nation and in the world, but we can work proactively together, building on our strong base to continue to make Brighton a model that other communities aspire towards. It is a privilege and an honor to serve as your town supervisor. I thank each of you for being here tonight, or for watching our live stream or our cable broadcast, and for all the things you do, large and small, to make us proud to call Brighton our hometown. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're obviously all welcome to stay if you'd like for our meeting, but I certainly understand you're all busy and you may have other things to go to. I will say, if you've looked at the agenda, it's pretty short. And let's get on with that agenda. First, can I have a motion? I'm sorry.
Open forum.
Open forum. Open forum. We have a lot of people here tonight. And I see Judy Schwartz. Judy, please come up to the podium. The open forum is an opportunity for anybody to address the town board, whether or not it's on a matter that's on our agenda this evening.
I'm glad there are a lot of people here tonight. I'm here wearing a different hat for Interfaith Impact of New York State. And every March, we present a legislative briefing. Our program this year is March 8th, 2 o'clock at the Unitarian Church at 220 South Whitten Road. And our program title is Sexuality Education, How Much Should Be Taught? There's so much going on right now in the press. Evan Dawson yesterday, today, and then the news tonight. We picked our program last fall. And so we really, and then there's
Wow.
I know it, and there's legislation in Albany right now too for complete, comprehensive, medically correct, age-appropriate sex education for K-12. And it is really, when you think about what our children and young people face today, there's a lot more than the sex ed program that we may have had in school. Today, in New York State, there is no required sexuality education at all, except for a little bit on HIV/AIDS, and in some cases, it's not even medically correct. So there is a move to have the state develop a curriculum. It will be an opt-out program, but it will be medically correct and age-appropriate, and it starts with grade kindergarten. And today, when you think about it, it really is about relationships and people getting together and getting along. When we think about bullying in school and harassing and so on, that really, when you think about it, does boil down to being part of sexuality education. Kids are coming out today, which is wonderful because they're living their true lives, but we need to educate. I think kids know more about it than sometimes their parents do and are far more accepting. But we need to really talk about differences in relationships today. And that's what a complete comprehensive program will do. And it will be age appropriate. Starting with kindergarten, for instance, you can talk with little ones about if somebody punches you or hits you, you can say, no, don't do that to me. That hurts. I don't want you to do that. That is part of this comprehensive program. So I encourage you, March 8th, 2 o'clock, First Unitarian Church. We have a great panel, and the program is going to start with In Control, which is Planned Parenthood's teen program on pregnancy prevention. And they go around, put on great programs. They write it themselves. There is staff, guidance and so on. So we're really pleased that they're going to start off our program for us. You're all welcome, and it's open to the community. And I feel that it would be certainly fine for you, if you have children, to bring them along as well. Thank you.
I was going to ask that. Thank you,
Yes,
Judy.
thank you.
I think I read today that New York is one of only, I believe, 12 states that does not have a mandatory sex education age-appropriate program, and certainly the state education department has developed education programs in a wide variety of areas. And it seems to me, certainly, that as important as an age-appropriate program is, it is high time for the legislature to give very serious consideration, and I hope approve such a program. Thank you for that. It is right. Yeah, thanks, Robin. I know they were trying to do the right thing by closing the back door to keep the noise out, but we do have to have at least one door open so that we are complying with our open meetings law. So, is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Judge Morris, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I would just
If you would simply introduce
absolutely
yourself.
Karen Morris, Highland Avenue. I would just like to say kudos to the board on the very impressive list of accomplishments that Bill just outlined in his state of the town. So thanks to the board and to the whole team that consists of all the employees in the town. And I want the board to know how appreciative the town is for the great support that you gave to the court as we went through transition in our personnel in our clerk's office. You referenced our new clerk. We're very happy with the current lineup of clerks in the office. And again, we're appreciative to the town. So thank you.
Thank you. We are appreciative of the important work you do, and, the feedback that we get about you and Judge Falk is nothing short of extraordinary, so thank you.
Thanks. We're all one big team.
Indeed. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during our open forum?
Bill, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
And I will note that Robin was here in the room, coming back, sitting down, so she is a part of that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We have two public hearings tonight. The first one relates to proposed tree removals, and I'll read all of the addresses. 32 Hartfield Drive, 679 North Landing Road, 207 Orchard Drive, 75 Terrytown Road, 200 Pelham Road, 104 Shoreham Drive, 20 Model Lane, and 32 Model Lane. And I would note that in each case, these are trees that are located in the highway right-of-way adjacent to the properties at those addresses. I'll ask the clerk, has necessary legal notice been given on these matters?
Yes, Supervisor, this was published in the February 6th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
And communication was sent to the various adjoining property owners as well?
Yes, it was sent out on January 23rd.
Thank you, Mike. Then I declare this public hearing to be open. Mike, would you like to talk? Is there anything you want to add? We've obviously got a lot of material.
I'll make it quick. Obviously, these trees are all considered significant trees. They're 30-inch or larger in diameter. All the trees have been identified as being unhealthy and having structural problems and been rated very highly for failure. Like I said, we put out the notices. We notify, because they're significant trees, we notify the lot that the house is on and also across the road and the two adjacent. So we notify quite a few people in the vicinity of the tree, so.
This process is all pursuant to the Town of Brighton tree law as part of our status as a Tree City, USA. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board and speak during this public hearing?
I will just note that the commissioner has submitted to the town board reports on each and every tree, which the board has before it. And as part of the proposed resolution, if you do close the public hearing and get to that resolution, it would include those reports on the trees in the record of this public hearing.
Thank you. And they are quite extensive, the reports, the photos, and I appreciate that. If there's no one that wants to address the board, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Can I have a motion? Why don't I turn to you, Chris?
Bill, I move that we approve the tree removals that you have outlined here. I believe that totals 9 trees, and adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion?
Only question about the communication from Sharon Griffiths regarding the request for a replacement tree at 20 Model Lane. And I am seeking that right now in our packet, and I want to ensure that that resident's request is given consideration in this motion.
Mike, what's intended there?
We haven't made up our mind. We will certainly take, I think she had recommended a tulip tree. We just want to make sure that that is one of our recommended trees. We have a list we pull from, and we would allow her to pick off the list we have. That's generally what we do. We don't plant the trees probably till next spring.
We are expected to replace these trees.
The resolution before you compels the town to comply with the adopted forestry plan, which requires replacement of trees off of, as Commissioner Guyon has indicated, a predetermined select list of trees which are more likely to thrive next to roads with the salt that they're exposed to, and are likely to enhance the tree canopy in the town.
And also, I know one of the things we've tried to identify trees that don't drop as much. For example, catalpas and some of the other trees that drop a lot of stuff. We try to shy away from those too. But
Well,
even
also-
with those, we've identified a number of good street trees.
Right, there's quite a few, and the other thing we try not to do is we try to have a variety of trees along the street in case
Right.
there's like the emerald ash borer, that we don't lose them all at one time.
Any other comments before we vote on the motion?
I did
Robin?
just want to clarify that the resident had expressed a preference for a sycamore or tulip tree, and the Commissioner of Public Works did reply that while tulip trees were not recommended, the sycamore species is one of the recommended trees, and the Highway Department will be informed of that choice by the
Thanks,
resident.
Robin.
Great. Okay, if there is nothing further, we have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next public
Well,
hearing.
let me just do, I'm sorry, let me do a lead in here. The next public hearing relates to a proposed addendum between the town and First Light Fiber to the town's right-of-way permitting process. I'm going to let Ken, I think, talk about, or Mike, whichever one of you would like to do so, why it is that we have this public hearing under our town code.
Sure. New York State Town Law, Section 64, requires that anytime the town board wishes to grant permission to work in its town highway right-of-way, that before such permission is granted, you hold a public hearing. So this company already has permission to work in the town highway and is looking to make some changes to the existing permit that it holds from the town of Brighton. So it's appropriate to hold a public hearing to see if the town board or if the public has any input on this work. As to the work details, I don't know, Mike, if you want to address that.
Why don't we wait on that until we actually call the hearing open?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
With that description, Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, this matter was also noticed in the February 6th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. Notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. And Mike, if you would,
Yeah, real quick.
describe the work.
It's not their initial project is not a large project, and I haven't received many details on their plans for expansion within the town. But the initial project is really just crossing under South Clinton at the Highland Avenue intersection, and then using that area within the right-of-way, within our right-of-way, to access a pole and get up to the lines to string their fiber.
Okay. Good. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the town board on this public hearing? Any comments from members of the board?
Just a question, then once they access the poles at Clinton and Highland, then it's their intention to expand throughout the town using the network of poles?
At this point, Jason, my only understanding is they have one client
Okay.
they're serving right now. So I asked, it's a firm out of Albany. They've expanded they've expanded greatly in Albany. I don't know if they plan on doing the same thing, but I shouldn't suspect anything at this point. But they do provide fiber service to residential property, so.
I do think it might be helpful to know that one of the provisions of the amendment in the permit that actually Commissioner Guyon came up with and that is being asked of this company is that when they do put their conduit under this road, that they provided in a covering that would be able to accommodate other fiber network companies running cable through that so that we don't have to repeatedly have our road torn up to install this type of conduit.
Good.
Is that a fair description?
That's a very fair description, Ken.
So this is not going to be directional boring, they're going to,
No, it will be a directional drill, but
Okay.
the conduit will be of size that will allow them to maybe only have to make one directional drill
okay.
for multiple carriers.
All right.
Realize when you do it.
So they're not going to trench the
No.
road, okay.
No, but realize though also, when we directional drill, there's a drill pit and a
Yep.
receiving pit, so there is considerable disturbance regardless.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, okay. There's nothing more. I declare the public hearing to be closed. And now, Jason.
Okay,
can I
with
get
respect to the proposed addendum, between the town and First Light Fiber, Inc. to the town's public right-of-way permit, I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We have a couple of communications here. Can I have a motion, Christine, to receive and file?
So moved?
Second.
One has already been referred to, and relating to the request for the replacement tree. The other one is from our chief, the resignation of one of our police officers. Can I have a motion, or we have the motion, any discussion on either of those? Dan, hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. This is an officer who was, decided to go back and work with the sheriff, and we wish her well. Okay, committee reports. Robin, Community Services.
Thanks, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on Thursday, a special day, February 20th, 2020. And among the items that we discussed were under continuing business and park issues. The Parks Department has been occupied performing upgrades to park buildings. Floors have been refinished at the Brighton Town Park, and an oil tank has been removed to prepare for the transition to a propane heating system. In addition, the back deck and stairs have been rebuilt at Brighton Town Park. The Buckland Park Lodge floors are currently being redone, and a scissor lift has been rented to perform a thorough cleaning of the beams, lights, fans, and other elevated areas of the lodge. And in an effort to improve sustainability, all lodge bulbs are being updated to LED to reduce the frequency of replacement and also increase our energy efficiency. Buckland House touch-ups are also being performed. The walls are being repaired, painted, and the art wall hanging system is being installed. That art wall hanging system was a gift from the Brighton Rotary. Thank you so much. As weather allows, the 12 Corners gazebo work that was commenced in late fall will be finished, and painting of the structure will occur later this spring. Under recreation programs, there is an office clerk level 3 civil service employment opportunity available in the Brighton Recreation Department. Canvas letters have been distributed to eligible candidates with minimal responses, and interviews are planned for next week. Our winter-spring program is ongoing with registration proceeding apace. The department is currently focused on summer programming planning and hiring, the concert series planning, and also concert series sponsorships. The Recreation Senior Program transportation provider, Brighton Transportation, has been acquired through sale and a new owner, or through sale by a new owner-operator. We've secured a new contract, and the carrier is doing a great job so far. The Buckland House Docent Program is looking forward to the completion of the touch-up work by the parks crew at the historic Buckland House and implementing their programming. And an update to the Winter Farmers Market, we heard that there will be a public meeting scheduled on Thursday, March 19th. You were correct in that date in your address, Bill, at the Brighton Town Hall from 4 to 7 p.m. to garner additional public feedback on the proposed site changes to the plan.
I was right on the date, but I was wrong on the time. 4 to 7 p.m. for that meeting.
Yeah. The project has not gone out to public bid yet, as we're awaiting that additional public feedback. Again, as mentioned in the address, the Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee will hold 2 Idea World cafes. The first session will be on April 16th, 2020, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., and the second session will be on April 25th from 10:30 to 1 p.m., 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Both sessions will be at the Buckland Lodge at 1341 Westfall Road. An update to our beautification committee. We'd like to sadly recognize the resignation of Dee Burdette. And in light of the most recent resignation, the remaining committee members are working to ensure that the records keeping requirements are being fulfilled and the mission of a holistic approach to beautifying the community is reflected in its recommendations for programming. An update to our community choice aggregation. As Bill mentioned, work continues on the contract finalization with Jewel Assets, our selected CCA administrator. In the meantime, we discussed maximizing community outreach and raising awareness of the forthcoming CCA implementation. Again, I want to remind people that our 2020 census is in full swing. And a complete count for Brighton will ensure that we can take full advantage of all the critical funding for which our community is eligible. There are ambassadors in our community who continue to raise awareness about how you can take part in the census. In particular, if you're someone who spends time out of state this time of year to avoid the weather, make sure you complete your census for the area you spend the most of your time in. By the way, we'll celebrate on April 1st, 2020. And by that time, we hope that most everyone will have already participated in the census online or by phone or in person. We are updating our Community Services Committee website to simplify the format to align better with the format of other committee websites, and we're working with Barb Snyderman and Bridget Monroe to implement the needed updates. An update to our mobile African American history display that we've been developing with the Community Uprooting Racism in Brighton group. We have identified a designer and artist that will be willing to volunteer work to design the mobile display. And we're working with the town historian to clarify any connections that Frederick Douglass may have to the area. Also, an update to our territory acknowledgement that we're considering. We're in ongoing conversations with Ronnie Pollock of the Native American Cultural Center to identify a potential spring date for an event to meaningfully roll out the practice of territory acknowledgement in the town of Brighton. We're considering a program that has a significant tie-in to the Council Rock. Under items of new business, we discussed the disavowal of restrictive covenants that Bill also addressed in his State of the Town address. We're in discussions among there were discussions among town staff regarding how to proceed with disavowing the restrictive covenants within existing deeds without otherwise affecting the chain of title. The goal is to develop a blanket disavowal clause that would renounce any and all racial, ethnic, and religious restrictive covenants included in any existing deeds in Brighton. It would not have legal binding force, as the restrictive covenants are already unenforceable, but it would represent a significant symbolic acknowledgement of the values of our community. We'll continue to work with the county, our town attorney, and title companies will be consulted as we consider how to best take action on this. We also sought a Genesee Finger Lakes Air and Waste Management Association Earth Day grant. The application was due on March 2nd, and we worked with our town engineer, Everett Garcia, and our Commissioner of Public Works, Mike Guyon, to complete the application for this grant that will award up to $750 to increase environmental education through projects that promote, 1, environmental awareness and consciousness, and 2, the development of technical knowledge and skills in sustainable environmental practices. Clean Sweep has previously been the recipient of awards under this grant program, and we hope to receive an award this year. Finally, we received an update from our town historian, Mary Jo Lanphier, and we will attach the entirety of the report of the town historian to our minutes of the Community Services Committee, but I did just want to highlight some of the items that she highlighted in her report. There were about 100 requests for information received by the town historian in 2019, mostly via email, but some via phone and drop-in. Some of the interesting requests were, there was a request for information regarding the Erie Canal in Brighton for the Empire State Trailhead project, a request about the origin of Buckland Street, and a picture of a request for a picture of the Roma barber shop at Clover Lanes. I think, Bill, you're familiar with that barber shop. Yeah. In addition, the town historian delivered 8 talks and public programs, published 11 publications, and provided reports on 10 homes for the Brighton Historic Preservation Commission. They also engaged in a number of collaborations with community groups and conducted 5 meetings and workshops. We thank our town historian, Mary Jo Lanphier, for her continued support for the town, and she was recently recognized for that support. So thank you again, Mary Jo. And finally, we discussed our Clean Sweep 2020 that will be on Saturday, May 9th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our other upcoming events with the Community Services and Recreation Department include our Bunny Bash, which will be at the Brookside Recreation Center at 220 Idlewood Road on Friday, March 27th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And our semi-annual Drug Enforcement Agency pharmaceutical take-back event will be held at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, April 25th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our Brighton Annual Clean Sweep, I mentioned, will be on Saturday, May 9th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our semi-annual Electronics Recycling and Secure Document Shredding event will take place at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, May 16th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, back to its normal day, March 18th, 2020, at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center, 220 Idlewood Road. As always, we welcome members of the public to attend.
Thanks, Robin. Jason,
Yes.
Finance Committee.
The Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Thursday, February 20th, on a busy day of meetings, and each of the items that were discussed at the committee meeting appear on tonight's agenda. We did also discuss inviting the town's independent audit firm, Mengel Metzger Bar & Company, to our next FASC meeting to review the upcoming annual audit and the latest news in government finance. And our next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 3rd at 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll be in the downstairs meeting room instead of the stage where we normally are, so it'll be the downstairs meeting room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Chris, Public Works?
Public Works meets monthly. I reported on our last monthly meeting at our last town board meeting. The next meeting will be March 3rd, next Tuesday at 9 o'clock a.m. The public is invited to attend. We'll be in the downstairs meeting room.
Thank you. And Christine, Public Safety.
Public Safety last met February 11th and was reported out at the February 12th Town Board meeting. And those minutes should be available online. The full schedule for the year has been set. It's also available online. We meet the second Tuesday of each month at 8 in the morning. We recognize that that is not always amenable for the general public to attend, but it is ideal for our public safety team to meet, go over matters, and get out and protect us all. So those meetings remain at 8 a.m. I will remind the public, you can always contact me as chair with any concerns, anything that you want to see on that agenda. We can meet and discuss and ensure that it does come before the committee on your behalf if you are otherwise occupied at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. My contact information is available on the town website, and I welcome calls and emails at any time. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 10th at 8 a.m. here in the town hall in the lower level meeting room.
Thanks, Christine. And I would note too, just like our meeting tonight, where we, after the proclamations and long speech, we do have an open forum, and we do welcome members of the public. So same thing goes for all of those committee meetings, and particularly, sometimes, if someone has to come in and go, we'll get them first on the agenda, and the committees really are an opportunity to drill down a little bit into some of the details of concerns that people may have, and depending on which committee it is, we have the staff in the room that really has the institutional knowledge to work with you. So I really do. I think those committee meetings are very valuable in terms of the ability to start to flesh out issues that may ultimately come here to the town board. Thank you, everybody, for those reports. New business, Jason, reading
Yes.
and approval of claims.
Earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $1,133,069.47. Notable claims include to the American Rock Salt Company in the amount of $60,452.72 for purchase of untreated road salt for snow removal. Hopefully that'll be our last purchase of that for the year, but keep our fingers crossed. Next to Birchcrest Tree and Landscape in the amount of $6,940 for payment of tree removals in the town. Also to Dell Marketing in the amount of $28,828.48 for purchase of replacement computers as per the approved 2020 CIP, and those were purchased off of a state contract. Also to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $352,350, representing payment of principal, which was $335,000, and interest on the 2016 Parks refunding bonds reissued from original Parkland bonds. And finally, to Precision Trenchless LLC in the amount of $96,654.70, representing payment for the relining of storm sewers project as completed in late 2019. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second?
Any discussion on any of those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin?
The next matter seeks to authorize waiving the procurement policy to secure transportation for the Brighton Senior Program and authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with S&S Limousine to support the program for a term effective nunc-pro-tunc, February 1st, 2020 through January 30th, 2020, and authorize issuing the bid request for transportation services for the program for the remainder of 2020. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
I believe that the date is right in the resolution,
Right.
Resolution is correct.
Oh, geez, 20.
but
Yeah.
the agenda should reference February 1st, 2020 through June 30th,
2020.
2020.
Sorry.
And with that, we have Robin's motion. Is there a second?
Second.
This was discussed briefly during the committee update because The former transportation company was acquired. S&S Limousine did agree to continue to do the work. They did, however, after some negotiation, indicate that we agreed on a price, and it's an increased price, and that's never a good thing. We are still, however, within the budget for 2020. We're going to continue that, as you noted, through June 30th. We will be going out to bid very shortly for a new contract. And I will say that in talking to Becky, these transportation contracts are increasingly challenging to find responsible vendors. Now more than ever, after some of the discussions following the horrible limousine accident in the central part of the state, we can, pricing on these could be challenging, but it's a good contract for someone, and we hope we get lots of interest. So,
The only thing I wanted to add, Supervisor, is the reason why authorization is sought through June 30th particularly is to get us through our next season of programming. The seniors are transported year-round, but that was a natural break in our programming that made some sense as it relates to the Recreation Department's activities.
So we have that motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, if you'd call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to discuss adoption of the bond resolutions in an amount totaling $840,000 for the purchase of 6 pieces of equipment for the Highway Department and Parks Departments, and I believe also for repaving of Duffield Road. Not part of that bond?
That's a separate one, and in fact, we have two resolutions here in this first part. So I'm going to ask you to do resolution number 4, which authorizes up to $760,000 in bonds for the purchase of equipment that's described in the resolution. The 2 dump trucks and 2 front-end
Loaders, yep. Yes, so $840,000, excuse me, Bill, the total then is $840, as you say?
Well, if you do for number 4, it's $760. We'll do resolution 4 first.
All right, so it's $760,000 for the equipment you indicated. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And you'll recall, this does contemplate the purchase and bonding for 2 loaders rather than the 1 loader that is in the CIP for 2020. We struggled this past year with our loaders. We anticipated getting another year out of that loader, but it had some significant repair costs. It was just not going to make any sense to put that much more money into the loader, and we need that loader. We have a total of 4 loaders. We needed to replace 2 to feel confident that we would have 3 loaders working next fall, and next fall in particular, when we get back into leaf season. Having 3 crews, you need 3 loaders. So this will be the trucks and the loaders.
We've discussed that several times, and those 3 crews are essential to maintain our level of service, which is very important to our community.
And I'll be honest, we struggled with that this year because of the mechanical condition. Our crews worked, they worked into January. They worked hard and the leaves got picked up, and kudos to them. But I understand, people are concerned, we're concerned. So this will give us those 3 crews and at least the equipment for 3 crews. Now we got to keep everybody healthy and
That's it.
working. Okay, so we're acting on resolution number 4, where we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye, and once you do 5 as well. Chris?
The 5th resolution deals with the bonding for the purchase of 2 other items here, the total of help me with the math here.
80,000.
80,000.
2 pickup trucks.
Yes, I see the itemization here. $80,000 for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Pickup trucks that have snowplow equipment. Parks,
For highway and
one for highway and one for parks. Yep. Discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll on that.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And Christine, why don't you do the last bond
Sure.
resolution?
I'm sorry to take that one away from you, Chris, but the next matter seeks approval to adopt bond resolution in an amount totaling $155,000 for the reconstruction of Duffield Road. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
May I second it?
Yes, you may.
Robert,
Sorry, I didn't see that coming.
Just don't
gotta
ask
be quick,
permission,
Chris.
huh? Yeah.
That's right. But you knew that by now. Duffield and Havens run parallel to each other. They're 2 streets. They're the 2 streets at the north and south end of the Deerfield Woods neighborhood, a neighborhood that was constructed back in the 80s. Really trends, I don't even know that you'd call them trend setting, but they were really revolutionary, affordable housing communities that took advantage of state right-of-way for an expressway that was never built, and constructed what now is a lovely residential neighborhood, but that was built with subsidies that gave people the opportunity to buy homes. And Havens and Duffield are the 2 access roads. They really needed work. They really needed work badly, full reconstruction. So we did Havens last year. We're going to do Duffield this year. Havens looks great, and I'm sure Duffield will as well when we're finished with it. A little bit different design, but the work will be done this summer.
But Bill, it's frightening to see what the cost is for road rebuilding.
Oh, yeah.
$155,000, these are not long roads.
It's a very short street.
Boy, there's so much reconstruction we'd love to do around town, but to stay under the tax cap and do that kind of work is
Yep.
difficult.
Yes, it is.
Impossible.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve 2019 budget transfers and appropriations to reflect actual activity relative to the 2019 amended budget. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
And you have the list attached here. Paula, is there anything you want to?
2 of those appropriations relate to the Highland Crossing Trail. It's a housekeeping to fix up the total cost of the project, bringing in the revenues. And the other one is for the farmer's market.
Okay.
We had 2 original grants for that farmer's market. Those 2 phases are just about complete. We're going to run into 2020's our phase 2, which is the $50,000 or $500,000 grant. So this fixes up those 2 original grants. And then there was a tiny, teeny, small appropriation needed for, I believe, the snow removal districts.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on those. You have all the detail in front of you. Any further discussion? If not, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. I do want to note just briefly, obviously, we are hearing a lot about the coronavirus. And we are fortunate here in Monroe County. The county medical director, we've not laid off medical personnel the way the federal government did, and is concerned as to their preparedness. But Dr. Mike Mendoza, the county medical director, he and I have had conversations. You know, at present, really what we would tell people at any time, wash your hands with soap and water, the stuff that, you know, your mother or your father taught you growing up. It's important. If you cough, cover your mouth. But maybe something that really is important to remember, if you're running a fever, don't ignore that. If you are running a fever, stay home from work. Keep your child home from school if they're running a fever, and call the doctor. I do know that you know, our medical director continues to monitor the situation, and we will. Should there be at some point any need to take any local level direct action in response to anything going on here, we will work with the various agencies to do so. But as of yet, really just take the normal precautions you would take in the winter. Stay healthy. Matters of the attorney.
Just briefly, Supervisor, first, I want to thank the board for allowing me to attend the New York State Association of Towns meeting down in New York City last week. I attended several seminars, picked up some new information on legal matters and some administrative matters. I'm now in the process of visiting our department heads and sharing some of that information so we can update some of our policies and practices so that we keep current on what the laws now require of us. And so I held a meeting with Town Clerk Dan Amon today. I've got a meeting next week with Tricia Van Putty, our Personnel Director. I've had some preliminary discussions with Paula Parker of Finance, and we'll continue to do that and make sure that we're in full compliance with what new requirements there are, as the law is always changing and always developing. And then the second matter is I would like the board to, if it's willing, go into executive session following the open session of this meeting to discuss a matter of pending litigation.
Thank you. We will have that motion. And I also attended, and as always, just a plethora of seminars that are part of the training aspect of that annual meeting. With some very useful information. You and I have had a chance to talk some while we were down there and since then, and as always, we'll try to keep putting that information to use. I was very pleased to be elected this time as the third vice president of the State Association of Towns, and working as an officer and before that as a director of the association really is an opportunity to engage with community leaders from throughout the state, engaged in important municipal home rule and other matters, advocacy that is so important, whether it's testifying at what is called Tin Cup Day in Albany, or passing a legislative agenda that the association members do each year at the annual meeting, focusing on the things that make it possible for towns to serve the important function that they do as a local government. I talked about it earlier. Local government can, and certainly in the case of Brighton, is the level of government that's most accessible to the people. And that's important, and that's really an important part of what we try to do as an association. Make sure that we have the opportunity to serve you, the people, as effectively and cost effectively as we can. So thanks for that. Ken, matters of the town clerk?
Just remind folks that the second installment of the property taxes town and county bill is due. On the bill, it says the 28th, but it's leap year, so it's actually the 29th. But that's a Saturday, so it's actually March 2nd, Monday. So don't panic. I don't know what the weather is going to be like Friday. Guess there's some snow coming. Good. But don't worry about it. I mean, it's spread out, so don't, worry about, while our roads will be in great shape because our crews do great work. But stay warm if it's a mess on Friday and come Monday. We've also got the drop box at the rear of the building, which is open 24/7 for your convenience. So, or you don't come tomorrow. Beat the rush, beat the snow. We'll be good.
Thanks, Dan. Members of the board?
I did just want to update everyone on our recreation announcements. Our winter spring registration for the 2020 season is ongoing. With that, we'd like to remind you to take a look at the offerings in our program brochure, see if there's something that would be of interest to you or your family. We have events and programs for the entire community, regardless of residency. All are welcome. And as always, our Brighton Winter Farmers Market is ongoing every Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center at 220 Idlewood Road. We're excited for another great indoor season. Our Bright Pen Senior Rides program is experiencing a driver shortage currently, and volunteers are critically needed. This is a program of lifespan, so if you know anyone who would be willing to drive just a couple of times a month, drivers are so greatly appreciated by our folks who rely on Bright Pen Senior Rides to get where they need to go. Lifespan's Bright Pen Senior Rides volunteer transportation programs helps get seniors in need of free rides to medical appointments, religious observances, or to our recreation centers. If you can, please call 340-8674 for more information on volunteering. And I just want to remind the community as well that we do have open and lap swim times available at the Brighton High School pool. This is something that's not always recognized in the community, that the Brighton High School pool does have community swim times. The times are both early morning and in the evenings for your convenience. So visit our website at townofbrighton.org/rec for a complete listing of those available pool times, or you can call our recreation department at 784-5260 to learn more about the schedule. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Robin. Anybody else? Hearing none, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss a matter of litigation as well as a matter concerning the acquisition of real estate?
So moved. Second.
No, I got you first.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePoncio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. I don't anticipate that we'll be coming back out, so our next town board meeting will be March 11th, right here in the same room at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.